Hey everybody, I'm Todd Anderson.
And I'm Ross Miriam.
And you're watching the Versus series by StarCityGames.com. All right, so I know SCGCon happened a little while for y'all. We're filming this just a few days after I got done casting for 3 days and then singing karaoke afterwards and completely ruining my voice. This is actually the best my voice has sounded in the last 3 days, and it's still pretty rough.
Yeah, I can imagine. I played Magic for 3 days, so my voice is fine.
Yeah.
But
Wait, you didn't scream at all your opponents?
No, I only screamed at myself internally.
All right, well, today we are going to be playing some Standard on the Versus series. This week we've got some great formats lined up. I believe we're going to have Pauper later in the week as well as Brawl. As always, Modern because it's one of the most popular formats. And then on Friday we're actually going to be delving a little bit back into Standard with a few different decks just to see if there's anything that can beat Red as well as just be good that's not Red.
Yeah, so we got Modern tomorrow after Standard today, and we got Pauper on Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday Pauper is the only important one, though.
Well, Brawl on Thursday.
Okay, Brawl on Thursday is going to be pretty sweet. Now that Brawl has been banned in Brawl, I know that's a mouthful. Brawl chief of complaints. You know, people complained about him so much. He was the chief. Now he's gone. The format's pretty sweet, and I actually really prefer heads-up Commander versus like the big games.
Oh, yeah.
I like building my decks to be a little more competitive. Like the Magic Online version of Commander has really appealed to me, and Brawl hits that note for me as well because there's all these really cool Standard cards that just wouldn't normally see play because they're getting boxed out by these really powerful 1, 2, and 3 drops. But now you can do some crazy stuff. My favorite deck so far has been the green-blue ramp deck that I played against you a little while back. You were playing
Tatiova?
Tatiova. You were playing DePaula.
Okay.
And I got to do some really cool stuff like Time Walk plus bounce your whole side of the battlefield in one turn.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was sweet. It was against you. Do you just not remember this?
Nope.
Oh, he blocked it out. It was a really bad. Anyway,
I've repressed that memory.
So today we're going to be playing some Standard. You know what? In the past, we have hidden a lot of information. Moving forward, I think we're going to try to get rid of that. I'm just going to, full disclosure here, I am playing Brad's Esper control deck. Now, Brad was originally scheduled to play today, but had an emergency. I'm stepping in. This is his deck. All week, it's going to be his decks. This Esper control deck is what he played in the Invitational, and he actually did really well in the Standard portion. I think he chucked like one match, he said, and he had a few draws. Like I think he went 6-2 overall in Standard, and he said he felt pretty favored against these red decks. And I think the fact that you're basically a blue-black deck just splashing Teferi gives you access to things like Vraska's Contempt.
Yeah, the black removal is really overtaking the white removal here because we need Fatal Push early, and Contempt both gives you a clean answer to the good red threats without being vulnerable to the plethora of enchantment removal that people are playing right now.
Yeah, and even though people don't play a lot of enchantment removal main deck, the sideboard games is really where cards like Vraska's Contempt and Fatal Push shine, because instead of having their creature be unlocked by whether Naturalize or Thrashing Bronodon or what have you, those creatures just go to the graveyard. And that gives you a little more food for the Scarab God, which, you know, makes an appearance here. What are you playing today?
I am playing red-black. We want to showcase what I think are probably the two top decks in the format. The Esper deck did quite well. As you mentioned, Brad did well in the Invitational with it. He also made top 8 of the Standard Classic on Sunday. So spent all weekend thrashing people at Standard, which is basically what he does on a weekly basis.
That's fair.
So we are going to pit it against the boogeyman of the format. This is just red-black aggro.
All right, let's get to it, man.
Okay. 7s, 11s.
Yeah, I'll play 7-11 game.
I got a 3. That doesn't do anything.
7 you lose, 11 you win.
Saw a 6. I got excited.
Oh, 11.
Got me.
We used to have the caveat that if you rolled an 11 while the other person rolled a 7, they got to go first all 5 games. But
Did that ever happen?
like 3 total times. Not a lot.
Because I had never seen it happen.
Well, this hand makes it look a lot more like a blue-white control deck because we drew 2 of our irrigated farmlands and no black sources. But I think this hand is good enough to keep on the play, just because we have a couple things to do on 2 mana.
This hand's a definite keep. Just have an early curve and one of our important 4-drops. Ooh, that's a good draw, too. Soul Scar.
Okay. If it was Bomat Courier, I think the game would already be over based on my hand, but I think I'm okay now.
You know, you ever have one of those cards that like never works for you but always works for your opponent? And so you hate it, but you know it's good?
Actually, I'm going to play this over there.
Because Bomat Courier is one of those cards for me.
Oh, yeah. No, Bomat Courier is just busted.
Yeah. Every time my opponent casts it, I'm like, well, I don't have an answer. They're going to draw 7 cards. Every time I play it, it dies immediately, or they just have a 2/2.
No, that's just stupid. You just haven't cast it enough. It's insane.
I played it at a Pro Tour.
Yeah. On day 1. You didn't make day 2.
Yeah.
We're going to syncopate that. Cards like syncopate and disallow have been getting a lot better lately. I think that is mostly due to the fact that people are trying to dodge Goblin Chainwhirler, so their cards need to be a little more expensive, and that makes cards like syncopate and disallow significantly better.
Ooh, now he got the search.
Well, I had it on turn 2. I just wanted to hold
Yeah.
up syncopate because I don't have a removal spell.
Attack you for 1.
18,
Joke's
baby.
on you. I have a second Kari's out.
That's fine. You didn't hit me for 3 this turn, and
Yep.
you took your entire 4 turn to do nothing. All right, we're going to take a look. I don't think we want another Glimmer of Genius. We just want removal and land.
Okay.
If we draw a Fatal Push here, we can pop it on this, on his Dragon Skull, and kill his Karizev. Well, now I look like a genius. Go. We're going to wait till his beginning combat step, though, just because I don't want to get hit with a Hazy. A Hazy boy.
Okay. Declare attacks.
All right, inside combat. We're going to use Field of Ruin targeting. Dragon Skull, summit.
I will float a red mana.
Okay, I will... I guess there's no big instant speed thing, so I'll just go ahead and Fatal Push Karizev. Now, normally we would want to use that to turn on Revolt to kill a bigger thing when we have this specific instance, but since we didn't have black mana, we just had to go ahead and do it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll take the 1. I'm at 17.
Yep.
Post-combat Hazy Boy.
Well, I have 3 cards in hand, so.
That's fair. No, dude, I'm all right. So I'm at 17.
Yep.
Upkeep, search. We're going to keep it just because we need this. I'm going to main phase a Glimmer.
Okay.
I get 2 energy, but we just need some lands here.
Here's your friendly neighborhood Jacob Baugh. Do you go, how'd you scry?
Bottom. We were just
Perfect.
digging for lands.
Okay. So I guess no matter what I draw here, I can attack with Hazoret because I have a 2-drop
Ooh.
and a land.
Wow. That's bad.
Which means I should probably just, I guess I can just cast both of these now. Yeah, casting them is better than discarding. So play Heart of Kirin and Scrap Heap Scrounger, trigger prowess from the Soul Scar Mage on the heart, attack for 7.
10.
Pass the turn. I was thinking about discarding Scrounger, but yeah, I can just cast both.
Oh, crap. I meant to draw this anyway. That's
Sure. Feel like that means there's a Vraska's Contempt in my future.
All right, so if I Vraska's Contempt, that's up to 12. He can hit me for at least 5, potentially 8, which will put me down to 4, and I might be able to recover after that. If his last card is Unlicensed Integration and he doesn't draw a creature, I think I might be okay, but it's very close. All right, let's just go ahead and main phase this. It's the 2 damage is more important than your turn. Than making sure he doesn't play another Hazoret. If he only hits me for 5, I think I'm gonna win pretty easily. But yep.
Crew Heart and Mush for 9.
Yeah, I'm at 3.
Yes. Okay. I was worried about a syncopate there, but I guess I forgot my energy off this hub.
It's fine.
We flipped. We're on 7 cards.
Yep.
That's lucky.
Sure. Your turn.
Okay.
Is your last card Disintegration? If it is, I'm going to concede.
It is not.
Okay. Then we got a shot. I wonder what I could possibly have.
Yeah. So we're looking at Gear Hulk. I'll play a Scrounger.
I think I'm dead anyway, actually. I can go up to 5. So I block here, contempt this, take 5. Yeah, I'm dead.
Okay.
I needed this to be like a 2-mana removal spell or something.
Okay.
I think I could have played that a little bit differently. There were the turn where I kept Vraska's Contempt in hand. I could have put it into the graveyard with Search, digging for the land, and that would have let me
Gearhulk earlier.
Gearhulk to get it a turn earlier. But I thought I was going to have to exile 2 things, and then I ended up drawing Forsake the Worldly, which could have effectively been the second Vraska's Contempt that I needed, but I just didn't have enough mana to do it.
Yeah.
All right, so we're here for sideboarding, and we're doing this, we'll call it versus classic. We're doing this face up. This is just more so to treat this as a learning experience, to try to give you as much information as we have on this matchup. So as far as that is concerned, this is not my deck. I don't really know exactly how I'm supposed to sideboard in this matchup. I know that these 4 cards are very good. Hour of Glory gives me answer to some of the more problematic creatures out of Ross's side. Things like Rekindling Phoenix, Hazard are very difficult to kill. And even just being able to instant speed kill a Glorybringer is pretty good. Forsake the Worldly can let me exile Scrap Heap Scrounger or cycle in a pinch. And Cast Down is just a card that kills most of the creatures that Ross could throw at me, and it just gives me another cheap way to interact. Now, I don't know if siding out Glimmer of Genius is correct. There's probably some configuration that Brad has concocted, especially when you're on the play, where you actually want Glimmer of Genius, all your 2-mana counter spells, and you probably side out something like Search for Ascanta. But I don't know. Go read his article if you want to figure it out. I'm gonna do this. We'll reassess after game 2 if we have a game 3.
On my side, the cards I'm bringing in are pretty obvious. We got 5 discard spells, and then a couple Rekindling Phoenixes, which are a good threat. And while it doesn't match up that well against Hour of Glory and Vraska's Contempt, what the red-black decks try to do in this matchup is just overload those specific removal spells.
Yes.
It's one of the reasons that the control decks have moved back towards Torrential Gearhulk, is just get more copies of Vraska's Contempt in this matchup. So we're going to try to do that. I am trimming 1 Glorybringer because it's also vulnerable to a card like Cast Down, and it's just one of the weaker high-end threats, and I don't want my card to be too high. I'm just trimming some removal. I'm leaving in the Disintegration, so I have some answers to a instant speed Torrential Gearhulk.
Or just a resolve to the Scarab God. I mean, it only stops it for a turn, but sometimes that turn plus the 3 damage is enough.
Yeah, and then Soul Scar Mages is pretty weak in this matchup. We don't need as many 1-drops. The games are going to go a little bit longer, and the ability on it, the non-prowess ability at least, is just not relevant in a very creature-like matchup. So cut our worst creatures and our removal spells, bring in discard spells and better creatures.
All right, we're here for game 2. I'm going to be on the play with the Esper control deck, and I think this is one of the reasons why I'm okay cutting Glimmer of Genius after sideboard. Our deck still has a couple of draw engines with both Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, as well as Search for Ascanta, and I think we want to be much more low to the ground with our interaction and hope that we just eventually draw one of our big card draw engines. But this hand is pretty good. We're definitely going to keep it.
My hand is also quite good. The mana is a little awkward, but that shouldn't be too big of a deal.
So I think it's important to get one of the tap lands on the battlefield here, mostly because we don't want to stumble later on. And even though we could have held up with our swamp, I think it's important just to make sure that we hit the ground running. Same thing. A lot of people, I think, cycle their cycling lands a little too much in the control decks. You just want to make sure that you hit your land drops. And of course, the buddy lands working off of these.
Okay, so I led with Heartache in there on turn 2 because it wouldn't allow Todd to use his Fatal Push, and I drew another untapped land so I can duress here to protect my heart if needed.
You can't. You're gonna take
that is a tilt.
Grind through all my removal.
Yeah, I will take the Teferi. Just leave Todd with a bunch of 1-for-1s.
Yep. And this is actually not a position I want to be in. I really wanted to play that Teferi in a few turns.
Want to scatter me?
No.
Didn't think so. So now the question is whether or not I run this into a push, and I don't think I do.
Sure.
I think I just pass. There's no point in letting Todd use his mana.
Your turn. I don't want to push the Scrounger yet. I'm waiting basically for it to declare an attack. I really want to make sure that I can push the Heart of Kieran. And if I burn a push on Scrounger, I just get beat up by another Duress. We're just going to... Maybe I should have main phase this. I'm going to Vraska's Contempt this.
Okay, I will
Yeah.
crew here.
Yeah, and that's why he didn't crew and just trade. Even though you want your Heart of Kierans to die off if they're going to get killed,
I'll take the scatter.
you would much rather have the ability to punch your opponent here. I'm at 18.
Yeah, you gain 2 from Contempt, take 4 from Heart. You're at 18. Play another tapped Canyon Slough and another Scrounger.
That's not good. Probably going to get punched by like a Hazoret or a Glorybringer soon. And these fatal pushes are looking pretty embarrassing. The second Duress was very good.
Attack. Chain War.
Yep.
You take 1, go to 17. Pass the turn.
Go.
So I know you have push X in hand.
Yep.
I really want to... I guess I can't force Todd to use push on Chain Whirler, but I still just don't want to let him kill the Heart, so attack for 3.
14.
Pass the turn. Or should I let that? Yeah, maybe that was bad. No, I actually like attacking first because it's way better against a Gear Hulk. I'll post combat this Doomfall to take a look at your hand.
Okay, just forsake this.
Okay.
And I have a push that just gets exiled.
Take the push and pass the turn.
All right, so I'm at 14.
Yes.
All right. Drop. Go.
Attack for 3.
Yep, and 11.
Pass the turn. Chain Whirler all the way.
Go.
Keep drawing lands, please.
I side out all my glimmers, so you know.
So I'm a little worried about a Gear Hulk here. So I'm just going to play it safe and attack because I feel pretty far ahead. 8 and play a Hazoret post combat. Scatter, not bad. Pass. But now
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't change anything. That's why you do it post combat.
Yep.
Go.
I mean, I could have attacked with Hazoret, but I'd be attacking straight into a Gear Hulk.
Well, as I'm saying, you're not attacking with the Hazoret anyway.
Yeah.
Like, either you kill me with it because it resolves, or, you know.
Yeah. So end of turn, exile the Hazoret, return Scrounger.
Yep, I'm in a bad way.
And play a Pioneer. Get
Yeah, I
a
just don't have
Thopter.
rats. So I think maybe boarding out the...
Yeah.
You win.
Once Todd declares no blocks, I'll pump the Scrounger, and that'll get him to 1, and then...
I don't have Wrath of God in my deck, so
Yeah.
This is definitely a 1-for-1 fight that I did not win. A little unfortunate, but I think the double Duress was definitely good there. But we'll talk about it more in the outro.
Yeah.
All right, so that did not exactly go as planned from the Esper side of things. I think that really showcased the strength of the red-black deck and why it is the most dominant deck in the format, specifically because you have all of these threats that require like wildly different types of answers.
Yes.
You know, Fatal Push is really good against things like Carry Zev and Bomat Courier. However, when you start getting to the mid-game and start casting things like Hazoret, I need specifically like Hour of Glory or Vraska's Contempt.
Yep, and we have this conception of the red decks being these hyper-aggressive decks. That's what they were when they had Remnant Runes. But now, with between Hazoret, Glorybringer, Chandra, Karn sometimes, there are just so many good mid-range threats in these decks. It's like half red aggro deck, half Jund deck.
Yeah, and I think that is actually a really good comparison. For those of you who've been playing Standard long enough to remember Jund when it was in Standard, when it had things like
Bloodbraid Elf,
Sprouting Thrynax, Blightning, very powerful removal. It had both Lightning Bolt and Terminate when they were both in Standard. It was crazy, and the deck was on top of things because every single card was the most efficient thing you could be doing at that mana, from Lightning Bolt all the way to Bituminous Blast. So I think that this deck is very similar in that you can start off with a turn 1 Bomat Courier or, you know, like Shock a Creature, and then if you hit the top of your curve, you get to play something as powerful as Glorybringer, which is very similar to what Bituminous Blast used to do, which is kill a creature and leave something behind.
Yep. Yeah, it's Bituminous Blast is Glorybringer is just sort of the creature form of it, and you saw there, like, you had the early removal. I wasn't getting in a lot of damage early. I was just attacking with the one creature usually, but Scrappy Scrounger just generated card advantage, kept coming back, and that card has just been a staple for so long now.
Yeah, I mean, someone recently on Twitter posted a list of every single card that has ever been 28 or more copies, or no, sorry, 24 or more copies in the top 8 of a Pro Tour. And for those of you unfamiliar, you can play 4 copies in your deck. And if you have at least 24 copies of a card in the top 8, that means at least 6 decks are playing 4 of. Scrap Scrounger is the only card to hit that list twice.
Yeah.
The other Pro Tours where that happened, Rishadan Port, Wasteland, and there's another one. It was an artifact, Grim Monolith.
Yep.
So some pretty stout company, and it beat them all because it's just been in the top 8 more times than any other card in Magic's history, which to me is not only crazy, but I mean kind of awesome. And the fact that it's not even been remotely close to being discussed as a bannable card. Just
yeah, never. Just look at how much card advantage these threats generate. Bomet Courier, card advantage. Rekindling Phoenix, card advantage. Hazoret, not card advantage, but if you don't answer it, you're dead. Penalar, 2 bodies. Chain Whirler gains card advantage. Scrap Heap Scrounger gains card advantage.
Yeah, Glorybringer.
And then there's Glorybringer, and there's Chandra in some lists. This list was more aggressive, so there were no Chandras in the 75, which is somewhat strange, but that's another one that like you just have to deal with.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I think that's more of a product of, I don't want to say bad design of cards, but over the last, I would say 5 years, there's been a slant towards creatures having basically these 2-for-1s built in, or at least like if your opponent kills it, you still get something very good. And I think that disincentivizes people from actually playing removal spells and instead more so focusing on playing the like harder and harder to beat threats.
Yeah.
And that leads to some really lopsided gameplay because if you ever stumble, your removal spell can't catch you up. And in this particular matchup, I was trying to match my removal spells with your creatures, and when that doesn't happen, you just get steamrolled.
Yeah.
I drew a fatal, I had Fatal Push stuck in hand against a Goblin Chain Whirler, and Goblin Chain Whirler is not even that good in this matchup. It's just a 3-mana 3/3, but Fatal Push doesn't kill it, so I just lost.
Yep. And that's the problem with, control decks have been okay in Standard over the last few years. There's usually one around, but it's rare that they are at the top of the format. Teferi has really helped them because that card is busted.
For sure.
But the sheer density of quality threats in the color red is higher than it's ever been in Magic's history.
Yeah, I don't like it, but then again, so there's been a little bit of chatter about potentially banning Goblin Chain Whirler because it kind of fits the same mold that Rampaging Ferocidon fit, in that it inherently discourages people from building certain types of decks because it is omnipresent in the red decks. And if you play against a red deck, you will lose to this card if you are playing this specific type of strategy.
Yep.
That is bad for a standard format. That's bad for any format. It's virtually mental misstep in standard. Like mental misstep was this insanely powerful card that once it entered into Legacy, it not only constricted how people built decks, like decks that focused around important 1-mana spells just ceased to be, but it also became one of the focal points of the format and whether or not you lost to the deck or whether or not you were able to properly leverage it. When you get to like an older and older format, the average mana cost of every deck just goes down naturally because you just have a higher density of powerful cards that cost cheaper. And Mental Misstep just dominated that format for a few months until they banned it. And Goblin Chain Whirler is having a very similar effect on Standard.
Yeah, it's shutting out a lot of the go wide strategies that would normally be good against aggressive red decks, especially as they get bigger to fight the mirror and fight control decks. And it would those decks would create some tension for control decks to have more sweepers rather than be blue-black based, and Chain Whirler just shuts it all down.
Yeah, and I think some of the natural checks to mono red too, like decks with Land Whirls, for example, if they are able to power out a very large creature in a small amount of time, those kind of decks I think can give red fits. Like we saw the mono green Galta deck smush red a few times at the Pro Tour on camera. But the turn where it didn't play a 5/4 on turn 2 with Still Leaf Paladin, it just all your creatures died to Goblin Chainwhirler. It was an embarrassment.
Yeah, you got like Branch Walker that can be a 2/1.
Yeah, I mean, just killing Llanowar Elves, I think is just such a feel bad for a newer player because your opponent's already playing this 3-mana 3/3, and when you combine that with the fact that it's first strike and the fact that it pairs really well with Soulscar Mage, it's just really deflating. And I think that for anyone who's like getting into FNM, if you have to play against Goblin Chainwhirler 3 out of the 4 rounds that you play FNM, and you're playing a deck with like a bunch of 1 toughness creatures, I would never come back personally, and that's very bad for business. So I fully expect Chainwhirler to get banned. They might even unban Rampaging Ferocidon just as a replacement because they want something like that for red decks where they can keep up with these token decks like the 1/3 that gains life whenever you get a token.
Anointed priest.
Anointed priest.
Anointed procession.
With anointed procession. Like that combination of cards can just end the game against a red deck because you just generate so much life in such a short amount of time.
Yep.
And your deck doesn't really care about removal. But Rampaging Ferocidon can be a check to that and force them just to have a removal spell as opposed to just losing because it came into play. Like Chainwhirler would just win the game, clear the board, attack for lethal or whatever. At least with Ferocidon, they can kill it and then still do their thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay.
Makes sense. I'm starting to see Goblin Chainwhirler in Modern.
I'm starting to see it in my dreams. My nightmares.
I know my Tannen was playing, Tannen Grace was playing the Legacy Duel for Duels on SCG Con weekend. He lost to it in Legacy.
Nice.
Just like Young Pyromancer got swept up.
Nice.
Just played against goblins.
Oh, that's sick.
There's a guy, I saw a Goblin Company deck that I played in a Daily Digest video in Modern, and I played against elves. That was my matchup. I just boarded in my Chain Whirlers.
Okay.
Yeah, you're dead.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to be all for me and Ross today. I hope y'all enjoyed this conversation. I think that Standard is in a very interesting spot right now, and things could go either way. I definitely expect something to happen. I don't know exactly what that is. Personally, I think banning Chainwhirler and maybe even unbanning another card could be the way to go. I don't know if that's Frostodon or even like Rogue Refiner. You know, don't quote me.
Yeah.
But I think something has to give. The red decks are just a little too good. Chainwhirler is too constricting on the way people build decks. I think that's just all there is to it.
There's too many awesome red cards.
I mean, that too. All right. Well, thanks for watching the Verse series by StarCityGames.com. For Ross Merriam, I'll see you tomorrow for
Modern.